So now we're on stage 2. It's time to do the most exciting bit, and that is to choose the perfect diamond for your ring setting. So if we scroll down, we can see the first option we have is whether you want a natural stone or a lab-grown diamond. In terms of the difference, they're both made from pure carbon, they're both technically diamonds, but one's been grown in a laboratory under very, very high heat and pressure to emulate what happens in the earth over millions of years. So there's normally a huge price difference between the two, and you can select either to see what's suitable for you. But for now, we're going to go for the natural option, and we're going to select that at the top. And then when you scroll down, you'll see various options. So we've got a carat option, the weight, the size that we were talking about before. Here at the Diamond Exchange for our rings, we start at a 1/2 carat, which is a fairly decent size. And we go all the way up to 3 and even to 5 carats. Depending on the criteria needed. We also have the option for the color clarity carat, and you can even organize the diamond options suitable and available to you by price. So if you have a particular budget for the stone that you can't exceed, and you're worried about finding a stone that might exceed your budget, you can select the slider below to the amount that you might have to spend. So on the diamond. So for example, we're going to take £3,000, which is normally about the average spend of our customers that come to us at the Diamond Exchange. So we can set it at that as an example, for an example. And then we can change the color. I always recommend for going to as high a color grade as possible, because that's something you'll see from the other side of the room, the color and the cut. So I'd always try and make those quite high in terms of importance when you're looking at a stone. So let's keep that to a DE on our selection. That's pure colorless, and just a very, very little hint of slightly less colorless. For our clarity, I think we can keep it at a VS2, but if you decide that you want to present that flawless diamond to represent something symbolic to your spouse, we can go all the way up to flawless. But for now, we'll keep it at a VS2 for illustrative purposes. And for the cut, even though we've got an ideal option, which would normally be that 3X or that 3 excellent cut that we talked about before, I think an excellent grade is still something that's pretty impressive. So we can keep that on excellent. We do have an advanced filters tab if you decide that you want to be more specific or savvy with your selection. And you can decide that you really want an excellent symmetry, for example, but you're okay if the polish is very good, then that's something that you could adjust. You will see at the bottom as well, very quickly, fluorescence. So what is fluorescence? Fluorescence is when the diamond under UV light glows, and it could be a yellow, a blue. These are the kind of colors that it will fluoresce under UV light. Now, some people don't like the fluorescence of the stone to be very strong, because they feel that that might affect the way the diamond looks in terms of its clarity or in normal light. But a lot of our customers find it an attractive option, especially if they go somewhere for the evening, or they go out for the evening and they have a UV light in the place they're visiting, then the diamonds will glow an interesting color. So that's purely preference. Normally, diamonds without fluorescence will be a little bit more expensive, but you can choose at will, and most of our customers do like it a little bit, just for that fun effect. One more thing that you might want to take into consideration is the certificate available. So we have GIA, IGI, and HRD. GIA, Gemological Institute of America, is the most famous, well-respected and well-trusted diamond certification scheme. The diamonds are normally slightly more in terms of price, but this is because of the trust in the grading system. Whereas other certificates might not be trusted as much, and therefore a grade given won't be as highly valued as that with GIA. However, on the website, we only have 3 certificates that we're offering: GIA, HRD, which is also another very, very respected certification scheme, and IGI, which is well respected, has quality diamonds, but it's not as strictly necessarily graded as GIA and HRD. So under the advanced filters options, you might decide that you only want the best certification scheme in the world, which is the GIA, and you can click the GIA button, and the stones on offer will update as a result of that. We can now see the diamond selection below, and you really want to try and look for a diamond that has some sort of life to it, that's really pulling you to the stone and looks exciting in terms of the number of facets. And some people try and look for shapes like arrows or hearts in those facets, which they believe will make the diamond just a little bit extra nice within the excellent clarity grade. So for example, I'm going to pick a stone that really speaks to me out of the selection. So we've got a half carat here at the moment, which I'm going to click on now. And what you can do when this stone pops up is you can tap the diamond and it will start to spin, so you can see it from 360 degrees. And you can get a hint of that flavor of sparkle, life and fire, which is what everybody wants a diamond for. It has a lovely shape to it and a decent girdle. That's the middle bit between the top and the bottom. And the patination within the stone is very beautiful as well. And here, this is just to show you the contrast with a different kind of stone. So for example, a stone that has more yellow in it and doesn't have that sort of vivid sparkle in the terms of the cut that we're looking for. So on the sliders here, I've moved the color all the way down back to J, just to give you an idea. And if we look at this particular stone, for example, you can see that although it's got this spectacular cut, it's got these amazing shapes in it, and it all seems to line up very, very nicely. It does have this yellow color in it, and the yellow is from the nitrogen that was naturally in the diamond. And there's a little bit more nitrogen than, say, in the D or E color, well, a lot more. And it's given this sort of slightly yellowish hue. Now, if you're to set this diamond in a yellow setting, yellow metal setting, this yellowish color doesn't matter so much, because amongst a real yellow into an 18 karat gold, the stone will still look white in comparison. It will have a hint of yellow, but in terms of its contrast, it will still look white. However, if you were to set this in platinum or white gold, the yellow might be more apparent. And that's something that most of the customers, unless they have a preference for it, would like to try and stay away from, and try and get a whiter kind of stone. In terms of the cut, I've moved the cut range now down to very good, which is where we like to start off with here at the Diamond Exchange, rather than offering these stones that don't, for example, have a good play of light or any character. But on the slightly poorer end of the diamond cuts, if we select this first diamond, for example, this first half carat, we can see a lot of these very dark lines, almost like stars coming to the stone. And that's usually because the stone's a little bit deep, so all the light is escaping outside of the usual places we would want it, rather than reflecting directly back out. And that's led to this dark star around the stone. So this is something that we might want to try and avoid, for example. But what you really want to do is look into the surface of the stone, right into the core, and see that all those kind of shapes are matching up. And that will mean that when we set it in reality, the stone is going to be beautiful and it's going to sing and fly and be very nice. So it's not necessarily just the guidance in terms of what's on the certificate or what's on the sliders, but how the stone appears in a video or an image is very, very important, because it will give you an idea of what it looks like in reality. You might decide when you're choosing your diamond that actually you'd like something called a fancy shape. So a fancy shaped diamond is any diamond that is not a round shape. So this could be a pear shape, it could be an emerald cut, it could be an asher. These shapes are all available right at the beginning in the selector setting. So the available shapes that we offer are there, and if you would like to select a fancy shape, that is the time in which to do it, and the settings will adjust accordingly. And that's because certain settings are only made for certain type shapes, so that's why we have to change it at the beginning and not in stage 2. But it's a simple matter of just clicking on the desired shape under the settings tab, that's tab 1, and the designs will be adjusted accordingly. The very last thing to mention is that when you're selecting a diamond, you might actually decide that you want a fancy colored diamond. So a fancy colored diamond is any diamond color that is not the traditional sort of white to yellow color in the diamond range from D to Z. Once a diamond gets a bit more yellow than that Z on the D to Z range, it then enters the fancy colored grading system, and it would be a fancy light yellow and then a fancy, and so forth. You can get diamonds in for any kind of color. So you can get black diamonds, you can get yellow, brown, blue, green, pink, red. Red is the rarest of all diamond colors, and they're extremely expensive. They can go for millions of dollars per carat. So a carat is a 20th of a gram. And then there's a range of other colors which due to rarity or availability have differing prices. On here at the Diamond Exchange, we do offer a range of different fancy colored diamonds. And when you go to our colored diamond section, you may see which diamonds colors you might like. Also to be aware of is that some diamonds would be natural, but the color might be treated. We always recommend to go for a natural diamond with a natural color to keep it all natural. But some people, they prefer very vivid colors without having to pay an expensive price, and this would be a treated color and a natural diamond. This can all be found when you select the diamond that you choose, but the majority of our stones will be of a natural color and natural diamond, unless you select the lab diamond option. If you select the lab diamond option for colored stones, then of course the stone will be not natural, it will be lab made, and the color will also be a treated man-made color. But yes, we have a variety of colors, and each of the diamond colors are caused because of different contexts when they're growing in the earth. So for example, yellow is due to the high presence of nitrogen, green might be the presence of radiation in the soil, blue because there's a rare gas called boron when the diamond is forming, which might affect the lattice or the connection with the atoms. Pink can be caused because of what's called seismic shocks, a sudden shock when the stone was being forced to earth or when it was growing. So all the colors have different reasons why they look these different colors to us. Choosing a natural colored diamond or a fancy natural colored diamond can make your ring look extra special. You might want to get an idea of the dimensions of this diamond. Do you remember we were talking in the first bit about the 4 C's that the weight isn't necessarily the same as the dimensions? If you want to get an idea of the dimensions, you can scroll down to the bottom of the stone and you'll see the dimensions. So for this particular stone, it's 6.24 by 6.32 millimeters. All the measurements will be in millimeters, and this will give you a rough idea of the size of the stone. Size is normally enhanced once it's set. It will look much better, but this is just to give you a rough idea of the surface dimensions of the stone for that weight, which in this case is 1.01 carats. So for example, say we want something that has that beautiful character, we can go back to our EVS2 Excellent Cut Stone that we saw before. It has those beautiful heart shapes around the center, and we can then simply press the Add Diamond button and it will exchange it for the one that we were looking at before and adjust the price accordingly.